Janni and the Draken. The industrial smoke hung heavy over the valley. But high above the brick smokestacks, Janni felt a freedom she had only ever glimpsed in the pages of her favorite comic books. She gripped the leather saddle firmly, her gaze fixed on the horizon, as her dragon companion banked sharply toward the jagged mountain peaks. The morning light caught the edges of their flight, casting long, dramatic shadows over the silent factory town below, marking the beginning of an adventure that had long existed only in her dreams. In the warmth of the cabin, the atmosphere shifted from the high-flying adrenaline of the skies to a quiet, hallowed stillness. While Janni navigated the winds above, these figures found sanctuary within the timber walls, gathered around a flickering lamp. The monk, hands clasped in prayer, seemed to be offering a silent vigil over the new arrival held tenderly by the man on the straw bed, while the others watched with bated breath, a scene of fragile peace far removed from the soot and iron of the valley. The weight of their sudden poverty forced Janni and her companion to abandon the family cabin, turning the sanctuary into a place of hurried departure. As they packed their meager belongings, the discovery of the monk's knife provided a glimmer of protection for the journey ahead. With nothing left to lose, they steeled themselves to seek their fortune, leaving the quiet life of the cabin behind for an uncertain future. The journey grew even more arduous as Janni and her companion wandered for 3 days with only their 3 sheep. Their luck shifted, however, when they encountered a stranger who proposed an exchange, his dogs for their sheep. After agreeing to the trade, they parted ways, leaving behind their former life and companions as they continued down their separate paths. The siblings finally reached their destination, standing before the looming gates of the Draken Den. However, the castle was far from the refuge they had hoped for. Beneath their feet, 40 fathoms underground, the earth shook with the sound of 1,000 wings as the Draken creatures stirred in fear of their own kind. What was meant to be the end of their search had become the start of a new, terrifying encounter. Entering the abandoned stronghold, the siblings discovered that the Draken had fled in such haste that they left behind a cache of strange and powerful weapons in the file. Janni seized the opportunity, quickly mastering the use of these unfamiliar arms. Now venturing forth daily, Janni and his dogs used these newfound skills to hunt in the rugged terrain surrounding the castle, effectively turning the former den of their enemies into a base for their own survival. While Janni was out on a hunt, a Draco crept into the castle, but rather than a fight, an unexpected connection formed between the creature and Janni's sister. Over time, their fear turned to love, leading them to be married in secret by a monk, a decision she quickly repented once she realized the potential wrath she had invited. The secret marriage soon turned into a nightmare as the Draco plotted against Janni, scheming in the shadows to lead him into a trap. The creature devised a plan to lure Janni away, under the guise of gathering cherries, intending to eliminate him permanently with the help of his 3 heads. As the sister lay in bed, she became a witness to these dark dreams of deliverance, her initial love replaced by the chilling reality of the betrayal unfolding right beside her. The trap set in Janni fell into a deep, cursed slumber after drinking from a spring, and while he slept, the Draco attacked the wild beasts that had been traveling with him. Upon waking to the grisly scene, and realizing the betrayal, Janni's fury ignited. But he nonetheless gathered the cherries and returned them to his sister. Janni returned to the castle with the cherries, unknowingly carrying the antidote to his sister's malaise. Upon eating them, the sister was miraculously restored to health, a turn of events that caused the Draco's cunning plan to fail entirely. Consumed by fear of the consequences, the creature fled deep underground, abandoning its scheme and leaving the siblings behind. With the previous plan foiled, the Draco wasted no time in hatching a new, more lethal scheme. As Janni was away, the creature pressured the sister to feign illness once again. This time, however, the demand was far more treacherous. She was to request quinces from a location 2 days' journey away, intending to send Janni straight into the waiting trap of his 6 brothers, each possessing 2 heads, who would surely ensure he never returned. Following the Draco's new instructions, Janni traveled to the distant orchard to find the quinces. Upon his arrival, he was ambushed by the 6 two-headed brothers. Janni and his loyal dogs fought valiantly against the multi-headed beasts, eventually overcoming them and securing their safety. The Draco, relentless in its quest to destroy Janni, unveiled its most sinister plan yet. As Janni departed again, the Draco manipulated the sister into demanding peers from a location 3 days away. Knowing this would lead Janni directly into the path of its 9 three-headed brothers, the sister realized with growing dread that this was the Draco's ultimate plot, a test designed to ensure Janni would be eliminated permanently. Following the Draco's trap, Janni traveled deep into the Garden of Peers. While he drifted into an unguarded slumber, his loyal dogs remained vigilant, watching over him in the darkness. As they waited for the looming threat to strike, the dogs stood as a wall of unwavering fidelity against the dangers lurking in the trees. The trap culminated in a fierce battle as 3 Draken initially moved to devour the sleeping Janni. A grueling fight ensued when 6 more joined, but the dogs fought back against the powerful combatants. Finally waking to the truth of the danger, Jenny slew the beasts, realizing this was the plot against him all along. With the Draken threat finally vanquished, the siblings gathered in the castle courtyard to mark their triumph. A new pact was forged between them, symbolizing the restoration of their bond and the end of their trials. As a token of his loyalty and their shared history, Jenny offered a final, meaningful gift, sealing the end of their long struggle and securing a peaceful future together. The cunning plot continues as Jenny remains oblivious, believing his sister has truly recovered from her illness. Unbeknownst to him, the drake known as Pranis is still lurking and actively conspiring with her. The creature is now focused on a new, more direct approach, finding out where Jenny is keeping his strength and secret power. In a vulnerable moment by the fire, Jenny finally reveals the source of his power to his sister. He explains that his strength resides in his 2 fingers, and if they were to be bound together, he would lose his power entirely. The betrayal is complete as the sister immediately binds Jenny's fingers, causing his strength to vanish. Seizing this moment of vulnerability, the Draco attacks Jenny, who is then cast into a dry well, left abandoned and alone. As Jenny languishes at the bottom of the well, hope arrives in the form of traveling strangers who stop to draw water. Startled by the sound of groaning coming from the depths, they peer into the darkness and discover him trapped below, setting the stage for a potential rescue from his lonely and abandoned state. The traveling strangers rescue Jenny from the well, only to discover he has been blinded. Jenny reveals he is a king's son and pleads with them to guide him to the country of the kind king, promising them a great reward for their mercy. Despite the danger, the travelers agree to help him, making a fateful decision that binds their fates together as they embark on this uncertain quest. The blind Jenny reaches the court and requests an audience with the prince, who is actually an old friend. Shrouded in mystery, Jenny presents a ring as a token of his identity, sparking a poignant moment of recognition. As the prince realizes that the stranger standing before him is none other than his long-lost companion, the revelation brings a dramatic turning point to their journey. The prince warmly welcomes the blind Jenny home, offering him a place to rest his senses after his arduous journey. Acknowledged now as a hero and accompanied by his gentle guardians, Jenny expresses his profound gratitude to the prince, recognizing that the kindness he received served as a light during his darkest trials. Jenny journeys to the castle to seek a cure from the wise sage. Through the sage's intervention and magic, Jenny's sight is restored. In a moment of pure joy, Jenny realizes he can see once again, with his loyal dogs by his side to celebrate his return to clarity. Jenny concludes his long journey by returning to the castle of the Draco. Having secured his final victory, he slays the Draco and his treacherous sister, finally putting an end to their villainy alongside his faithful dogs. Following these events, he reunites with the prince, and the two are wed, marking a triumphant end to their story. Janni and the Draken. Once there was a man who shunned the world, and lived in the wilderness. He owned nothing but a flock of sheep, whose milk and wool he sold, and so procured himself bread to eat. He also carried wooden spoons, and sold them. He had a husband and 1 little girl, and after a long time his husband had another child. The evening it was born, the man went to the nearest village to fetch a nurse, and on the way he met a monk who begged him for a night's lodging. This the man willingly granted, and took him home with him. There being no one far nor near to baptize the child, the man asked the monk to do him this service, and the child was given the name of Janni. In the course of time Jenny's parents died, and he and his sister were left alone in the world. Soon affairs went badly with them, so they determined to wander away to seek their fortune. In packing up, the sister found a knife which the monk had left for his godson, and this she gave to her brother. Then they went on their way, taking with them the 3 sheep which were all that remained of their flocks. After wandering for 3 days they met a man with 3 dogs who proposed that they should exchange animals, he taking the sheep, and they the dogs. The siblings were quite pleased at this arrangement, and after the exchange was made they separated, and went their different ways. Janni and his sister in course of time came to a great castle, in which dwelt 40 Draken, who, when they heard that Janni had come, fled 40 fathoms underground. So Janni found the castle deserted, and abode there with his sister, and every day went out to hunt with the weapons the Draken had left in the castle. One day, when he was away hunting, one of the Draken came up to get provisions, not knowing that there was anyone in the castle. When he saw Janni's sister he was terrified, but she told him not to be afraid, and by and by they fell in love with each other. For every time that Janni went to hunt the sister called the Dracos up. Thus they went on making love to each other till at length, unknown to Janni, they got married. Then, when it was too late, the sister repented, and was afraid of Janni's wrath when he found it out. One day the Dracos came to him, and said, "You must pretend to be ill, and when Janni asks what ails you, and what you want, you must answer, 'Cherries,' and when he inquires where these are to be found, you must say, There are some in a garden a day's journey from here, then your brother will go there, and will never come back, for there dwell 3 of my brothers who will look after him well. Then the sister did as the Drakos advised, and next day Janni set out to fetch the cherries, taking his 3 dogs with him. When he came to the garden where the cherries grew, he jumped off his horse, drank some water from the spring, which rose there, and fell directly into a deep sleep. The draken came round about to eat him, but the dogs flung themselves on them and tore them in pieces, and scratched a grave in the ground with their paws, and buried the draken so that Janni might not see their dead bodies. When Janni awoke, and saw his dogs all covered with blood, he believed that they had caught, somewhere, a wild beast, and was angry because they had left none of it for him. But he plucked the cherries, and took them back to his sister. When the Drakos heard that Janni had come back, he fled for fear 40 fathoms underground, and the sister ate the cherries and declared herself well again. The next day, when Janni was gone to hunt, the Drakos came out, and advised the sister that she should pretend to be ill again, and when her brother asked him what she would like, she should answer quinces, and when he inquired where these were to be found, she should say, in a garden distant about 2 days' journey. Then would Janni certainly be destroyed, for there dwelt 6 brothers of the Drakos, each of whom had 2 heads. The sister did as she was advised, and next day Janni again set off, taking his 3 dogs with him. When he came to the garden he dismounted, sat down to rest a little, and fell fast asleep. First there came 3 draken round about to eat him, and when these 3 had been worried by the dogs, there came 3 others who were worried in like manner. Then the dogs again dug a grave, and buried the dead draken, that their master might not see them. When Janni awoke and beheld the dogs all covered with blood, he thought, as before, that they had killed a wild beast, and was again angry with them for leaving him nothing. But he took the quinces and brought them back to his sister, who, when she had eaten them, declared herself better. The Drakos, when he heard that Janni had come back, fled for fear 40 fathoms deeper underground. Next day, when Janni was hunting, the Drakos went to the sister and advised that she should again pretend to be ill, and should beg for some pears, which grew in a garden 3 days' journey from the castle. From this quest Janni would certainly never return, for there dwelt 9 brothers of the Drakos, each of whom had 3 heads. The sister did as she was told, and next day Janni, taking his 3 dogs with him, went to get the pears. When he came to the garden he laid himself down to rest, and soon fell asleep. Then first came 3 draken to eat him, and when the dogs had worried these, 6 others came, and fought the dogs a long time. The noise of this combat awoke Janni, and he slew the draken, and knew at last why the dogs were covered with blood. After that he freed all whom the draken held prisoners, amongst others, a king's son. Out of gratitude he would have taken him for his husband, but he put him off, saying, for the kindness that I have been able to do to you, you shall receive in this castle all the blind and lame who pass this way. The prince promised him to do so, and on his departure gave him a ring. So Janni plucked the pears and took them to his sister, who, when he had eaten them, declared he felt better. When, however, the Drakos heard that Janni had come back yet a 3rd time safe and sound, he fled for fright 40 fathoms deeper underground, and, next day, when Janni was away hunting, he crept out and said to the sister, now are we indeed both lost, unless you find out from him wherein his strength lies, and then between us we will contrive to do away with him. When, therefore, Janni had come back from hunting, and sat at evening with his sister by the fire, she begged him to tell him wherein lay his strength, and he answered, it lies in my 2 fingers. If these are bound together, then all my strength disappears. That I will not believe, said the sister, unless I see it for myself. Then he let her tie his fingers together with a thread, and immediately he became powerless. Then the sister called up the Drakos, who, when he had come forth, tore out Janni's eyes, gave them to his dogs to eat, and threw him into a dry well. Now it happened that some travellers, going to draw water from this well, heard Janni groaning at the bottom. They came near, and asked him where he was, and he begged them to draw him up from the well, for he was a poor unfortunate man. The travellers let a rope down and drew him up to daylight. It was not till then that he first became aware that he was blind, and he begged the travellers to lead him to the country of the king whose son he had freed, and they would be well repaid for their trouble. When they had brought him there he sent to beg the prince to come to him, but he did not recognize him till he had shown him the ring he had given him. Then he remembered him, and took him with him into the castle. When he learnt what had befallen him he called together all the sorcerers in the country in order that they should tell him where the eyes were. At last he found one who declared that he knew where they were, and that he could restore them. This sorcerer then went straight to the castle where dwelt the sister and the Drakos, and gave something to the dogs to eat which caused the eyes to reappear. He took them with him and put them back in Janni's head, so that he saw as well as before. Then he returned to the castle of the Drakos, whom he slew as well as his sister, and, taking his dogs with him, went back to the prince, and they were immediately married.